The 14 December 2022 Planning Commission public hearing. My name is Jack Wall, and I'm the chairman of the Virginia Beach Planning Commission. Commissioner Oliver will not be in attendance today. Before we get started, I've asked Commissioner Costin to lead us in prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Horsley. Please stand.
Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for this glorious day which you have made. We ask, dear God, that as we come to consider those things that would affect the citizens of Virginia Beach, that you would strengthen our hearts and our minds, oh God, that you would guide us, that we may better be servants of those we serve. We ask, God, that you would look on the family of one of our former members who is deceased. God, that you would give them strength and comfort, oh God, in these trying times. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. I've asked Mr. Redmond to introduce the planning commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy holidays to all. I'm going to start on this side of the dais. That lovely lady is Kay Wilson. She is a deputy city attorney for Virginia Beach, and part of her purview is planning and community development matters. And I've been here 16 years, and I think you've been here all 16 of those years, so thank you. Next to her, that man is Michael Clemens. He is a university professor. He represents the Centerville district, and he is a professor of political science at Old Dominion University. Next to Michael is Holly Cuellar. Holly serves at large, and she is a consultant and a community leader and a whole bunch of other things I'm sure I'm missing, but that's the gist of it. This gentleman next to me is Mr. John Costin. He serves at large. He is a retired fire captain in Virginia Beach. He's having some surgery tomorrow, so we certainly wish you well. I'm sure you'll do fine. My name is Dave Redmond. I'm a commercial real estate broker. I represent the Bayside District. I'm not going with these numbered district things. I'm going with the names of these things until we absolutely have to. So from the Bayside District, and I thank you for being here. This is Donald Horsley. Mr. Horsley serves at large. He is a farmer and a Hokie, and extraordinarily good at both of those things. Next to him and in the center there is Jack Wall. Jack represents the Rose Hall District. He is an engineer by trade, and he is chairman of the commission. The next guy next to him, that's George Alcaraz. George represents the Beach District. He does a bunch of things. He's an events promoter. He's a contractor, and he's a restaurateur, and we're going to enjoy some of his hospitality tonight, so thank you for that, George. Dee Oliver is not with us today. She also serves at large. She also is a jack of all trades. She's an author and a speaker and is in the funeral business. She has a personal health issue she's dealing with today, and we certainly wish her and her family well in this holiday season. Mr. Weiner, David Weiner, is a contractor in the building business. And he is a former vice chairman, a former chairman, and he represents the Kempsville district. David Bradley is a retired budget director for the city of Virginia Beach. He represents the Princess Anne district. Barry Frankenfield represents the Lynn Haven district, and he is a former planning director for the city and worked for the city for many years. And then that guy to his left is Bobby Tahan. Bobby is the current planning director. He, in addition to leading this department, also leads a very capable and fine staff on whom we depend very greatly. So I'd ask Bobby now to introduce some of his staff who are in attendance. Mr. Tahan.
Thank you, Mr. Redmond. Chairing today, we have clerking today, we have Pam Sandleap and Madison Harris. Starting with the rest of the staff, we have Hannah Sabo, our zoning administrator, Waddell and Marshall Coleman with planning administration, Deputy Director of Economic Development, Kathy Warren. We have Hank Morrison, Gary Hannigan, Michaela McKinney, Elizabeth Nowak, don't smile at me, you're going to throw me off, as well as Tori Eisenberg with the City Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Redmond. All right, we have a couple orders of business before we get into the rest of the agenda. We need a motion to amend the agenda first for 2 items.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I move for a motion. We have to make an amendment to 2 items on the agenda today. The first one will be the resolution to the scheduled monthly meetings, and the second one would be the slate of the new officers coming next year. So I move for approval of that.
okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Weiner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay.
The vote is open. Mr. Weiner, did you vote?
Who do you need?
Yeah, did you vote? Did you motion?
Mr. Bradley?
Mr. Weiner?
Did you vote? I voted.
No, Mr. Weiner.
I mean, I did it. I moved. My mover.
Okay, okay,
It says I did, anyway.
okay, thank you. By a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, the motion to amend the agenda has been approved.
Thank you. Okay, now we need,
All right, so now I've got a move for approval on a resolution to schedule the monthly meetings for 2023.
okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Weiner. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Weiner, did you vote?
Yep, I hit it.
Oh, okay. By a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, the slate of new officers for calendar year 2023 have been approved.
Okay, one more. So now we move on to the elections for next year for the board, or the chair and vice chair. And as a nominating committee, I'd like to nominate George Alcarez as the chair for 2023 and Don Horsley as the vice chair. And one condition that Don Horsley sits on the right side of the chair. So we're good to go. So I move for approval of George Alcarez as chair and Don Horsley as vice chair.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Weiner and a second by Mr. Redmond.
Vote is open. What is happening? By a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, the slate of new officers for calendar year 2023 have been approved. And to correct my previous statement, by a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, the meeting dates for calendar year 2023 have been approved.
Okay, thank you. All right, there's one more, before we get into the agenda. One
Chair.
more item. I think Mr. Redmond would like to make a statement.
I would actually, and it occurred to me, there are 2 things I need to do, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure all will agree. Mr. Nutter, would you approach the bench, please? I can fake lawyer with the best of them. I wanted to mention this gentleman, Mr. R.J. Nutter, who is a partner at Troutman Sanders and who is Troutman Pepper now, and who we've seen for many, many years is retiring at the end of this year in full. He's still going to do some consulting. He still has a little bit of casework here and there, but he almost certainly will not be a regular fixture of these proceedings or city council proceedings as he has been in the past. He has been a regular part of our work for a very long time. He's an extremely capable attorney, and we're going to miss him very much. So I want to say thank you on behalf of all these other folks and the, gosh, probably 200 commissioners that came before me who you worked with and enjoyed and benefited from your work. So thank you from all of us.
Well, thank you, David. That's very kind of you. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be here any day. Today is no different. And I appreciate all the support and you all have given me and my clients over the year. We've somehow managed to move the city forward and with good reason. We've got a great staff. They've helped us along the way. So thank you very much, David. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Nutter.
Yes, sir.
The other part of our business is, I think, quite a bit more solemn. Unfortunately, one of our former colleagues, Gene Crabtree, represented the Rose Hall District for 2 terms in the early 2000s. He was a very, very good and decent individual. There aren't that many people here who will remember him because, if I recall correctly, he preceded Mr. Wall's predecessor. So this is going back a ways. Mr. Horsley was here and served with him and was a friend of his, as did I, as did Mr. Nutter, and Mr. Burdon, Mr. Frankenfield, and probably that's it in the room. And that's too bad, because I don't know anybody who enjoyed this work as much as Gene did. Gene felt really privileged to serve on Planning Commission. He felt like he was contributing in the best way that he could. And he did a darn fine job of it. One of the things I remember about Gene is I don't ever remember him being in a bad mood. If one of you guys remembers a time when Gene Crabtree was ever in a bad mood, when you ever saw him in a way where he wasn't jovial, when he wasn't friendly, when he wasn't easy to work with, I would be extremely surprised because he was all those things. And he brought a dedication, I think, every time to every meeting, to every workshop, to every outside event. I think that was very admirable. There are a lot of folks I know who exchanged texts and emails and the like in the last couple of days since his passing, who feel exactly the same way, who served with him and who knew of him. And it's a very sad thing. We're all going there one day. But I think we're all just very fortunate to have served along with him, to have known him, and to have appreciated him for all he did. The last thing I'll say about ourselves in certain ways, and the last thing I remember about Gene is he was certainly a patriot. He believed very much in his career. He served a career in the military, and he lived it, wore it on his sleeve, and he wore it as comfortably and as naturally as anybody I've ever seen. So he will certainly be missed to his friends and those who knew him particularly, but anybody in the city who didn't realize it, you missed something when Gene passed, and that's too bad, but he was our friend. So thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Okay, yep, thank you, Mr. Redmond. All right, the next order of business is that I've asked the clerk to read the rules and order of business for today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Virginia Beach Planning Commission takes pride in being fair and courteous to all parties in attendance. It is important that all involved understand how the commission normally conducts its meetings. It's equally important that everyone treat each other and the members of the commission with respect and civility. We request that cell phones be put on silent during this meeting. Following is an abbreviated explanation of the rules. The complete set of rules is located in front of the Planning Commission agenda. The order of business for this public hearing: withdrawals and deferrals. The chairman will ask if there are any requests to withdraw or defer an item on the agenda. Consideration of these requests will be made first. The consent agenda. The second order of business is a consideration of the consent agenda, which are those items that the Planning Commission believe are unopposed and which have favorable staff recommendation. Regular agenda. The commission will then proceed with the remaining items on the agenda. When an agenda item has been called, we will recognize the applicant or their representative first. Following the applicant or representative, in-person speakers will be called next, and then speakers participating via WebEx. Speakers in support or opposition of an agenda item will have 3 minutes to speak unless they are solely representing a large group, such as a civic league or homeowners association, in which case they will have 10 minutes. If a speaker does not respond or if a technical issue occurs which renders the comments unintelligible, we will move on to the next speaker or the next order of business. Please note that the actions taken by the commission today are in the form of a recommendation to the Virginia Beach City Council. The final decision to approve or disapprove an application will be made by the City Council. The commission thanks you for your attendance, and we hope that your experience here today leaves you feeling that you have been heard and treated fairly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, the next order of business is withdrawals and deferrals. And the,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I make one comment, please?
sure, please.
I apologize, it's out of order. The voting machine showed, I just want to clarify for the public, the voting machine showed Mr. Weiner being on the board twice, as well as a commissioner that is no longer on the Planning Commission on board. We wanted to make sure we understood who was here. That's why it showed them as away in those votes. We're unsure if that will stay that way when we pull up the next set of votes, but it shows Mr. Weiner as twice and former Commissioner Klein on the board. I just want to make sure the public is aware of that We are recording the vote as called by the clerk.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, like I said, the next order of business is withdrawals and deferrals. We'll have a, after the individuals come up, we'll have a motion and a second, and then abstention if anybody's abstaining, and then we'll vote. So is there anybody here who would like to withdraw an application? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone that needs to have a deferral on an application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As is indicated in the agenda, 1900 Virginia Beach Boulevard, items 9 and 10, we need a deferral. Survey just showed up yesterday, so we might be back next month, but we'll do it indefinite for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so that was agenda number 9 and 10. Do I have a motion to defer agenda item number 9 and 10?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there anybody that needs to abstain? On the move.
Mr. Chairman, that was a motion by Mr. Redmond and a second by Mr.
Yeah,
Horsley.
Mr. Redmond, could you hit the button? Yeah.
Mr. Horsley, could we get your second, please?
All right, are there any abstentions? Okay,
Vote is open. By vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, agenda items 9 and 10 have been deferred indefinitely.
okay, thank you. The next order of business is the consent agenda, and I'm going to turn that over to the vice chair to run that portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, we have 9 items on the consent agenda. These applications that are recommended for approval by staff and the Planning Commission concurred, and there are no speakers signed up in opposition. The first item, item number 1, is the City of Virginia Beach for an amendment to the City of Virginia Beach Comprehensive Plan 2016 with the adoption of the Resort Area Mobility Plan. Please come forward.
Good afternoon. All right, so item number 1 is a request to amend the city's comprehensive plan by incorporating the Resort Area Mobility Plan, or RAMP, into the reference handbook. The purpose of the amendment is to incorporate RAMP as an official document in the comprehensive plan that will be used to guide future development and serve as a blueprint for how the community intends to transition to a more balanced approach of safely moving people rather than just vehicles within the resort area. The plan includes 21 multimodal strategies and 26 parking strategies, as well as recommendations for improvements to various transportation networks, corridors, and intersections throughout the resort area. Staff is recommending approval of this ordinance as it would support the implementation of the Resort Area Strategic Action Plan, and it supports the area's stated goal of being a year-round destination for residents and visitors alike. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I've asked, well, we don't need to speak, right? Just go on to the next one? Yep. All right, the next agenda on the consent is item number 3, for Virginia Electric Power Company doing business as Dominion Energy in the Pungo Airfield. Please come forward and state your name. How you doing?
Good afternoon. Tim Selden with Geosyntec, representing Dominion Energy Virginia.
Thank you. Are the conditions acceptable to you?
They are, yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I've asked Mr. Bradley to please speak on this.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for public utility transformer services and major transmission lines and towers to use this 45.5-acre site as a temporary laydown yard for the construction of the Coastal Virginia Offshore Wind Project. This property, which is split AG1 and AG2 agricultural district, is a portion of the abandoned 1940s era Pungo Airfield. Presently, the eastern portion of the site is used as a mulching operation that will continue. The current project timeline estimates that the laydown yard will be needed for 3 to 4 years. Staff recommended this. There's no known opposition, so we decided to place it on our consent agenda.
Thank you. The next item for consent is item number 5 for Nemo United Methodist Church. Please come forward and state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Alcaraz. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, Eddie Burdon, Virginia Beach attorney representing Nemo United Methodist Church. We appreciate being on the consent agenda. All 4 conditions are acceptable to my clients, and want to thank Marshall for her work on this application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I've asked Commissioner Weiner to please speak on this item. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Alcaraz. This is a street closure for Nemo Church, portion of Old Prince Anne Road, the right-of-way. The applicant, Nemo Church Methodist Church, is seeking to close a portion of the formerly used Princess Anne Road west of Nemo Church Lane. Due to the relocation and construction of the new 4-lane Princess Anne Road, this portion of the right-of-way has been abandoned. Staff recommends approval, and we put this on the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. The next item on the consent is item number 6 for Hickman Shops LLC. Please come forward and state your name.
Again, for the record, Eddie Burdon, Virginia Beach attorney representing the applicant. This is a proffered modification of proffers, and I really want to thank Marshall, especially for her work on this application, because we've pushed her a little bit with some 11th hour changes, if you've seen the markouts on your report. So appreciate being on the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda?
Excuse me, I have no opposition, but I am going to abstain, and I have a letter on file from the city attorney. And I have a, Oh, you wait till I vote? All right, I'll wait till you vote.
Oh, wait till you vote. Hearing none, I've asked Commissioner Horsley to please speak on this.
The applicant is seeking some proffers to be changed, to change from a conditional rezoning that took place in 2014 for this property. It was changed at that time from R20 residential to B2 community business. Then, since then, it's been changed in 2017. There was some modifications made to increase the footprint. And basically, the changes they're asking for now is to convert one building, which is on the plan is Building A, to 2 buildings, A1 and A2. And Building A1 would turn into a retail bank with a drive-through. Building 2 would remain as retail. And Building F would increase in size from 2,450 square feet to 3,500 square feet. And the anchor store, which is to be built in the future, will go from 45,000 some odd feet to over 49,000 feet. And then the 0.9 acre parcel, out parcel, will be eliminated. So these modifications we think are very reasonable, and the staff was in favor, and we put them on our consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item or items are items 7 and 8 for Express Wash Property Holdings LLC for conditional rezoning for AG2 to B2. That's item number 7. And item number 8 is conditional use permit for a car wash. Please come forward and state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Rob Beeman, Virginia Beach Land Use Attorney here today on behalf of the applicant. We've had a chance to read the conditions. They're acceptable, and we appreciate being on consent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I've asked Commissioner Cuellar to please read these 2 items.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to rezone 3.48 acres along Dam Neck Road from AG2 Agricultural District to Conditional B2 Community Business District, as well as a conditional use permit to construct and operate a car wash facility. The properties are located at the intersection of Dam Neck Road and South Rosemont Road. Being that there is no known opposition, it is both recommended by staff and the Planning Commission to be on the consent agenda.
Thank you for that. So that's 7 and 8. The next item for, I'm sorry, I jumped something. Is item number 11, that's, we're here now? Okay, I'm sorry. Item number 11 for Permanent Pictures Tattoo LLC. Please come forward.
Mr. Vice Chair, I believe the applicant is via WebEx. Mr. Scott Cochran, we're going to unmute your audio feed if you would state your name and if the conditions of your application are acceptable.
Hello, this is Scott Cochran joining you, and I do accept the conditions.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I ask Mr. Clemens to please speak on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a traditional tattoo parlor in an existing 750 square foot suite of the Dam Neck Square Shopping Center. The property is on B2 Community Business and is located near the intersection of Dam Neck Road and General Booth Boulevard. The applicant has operated a tattoo parlor in Maryland for the past 15 years, and with the recent move to Virginia Beach, they wish to expand that business. In light of staff recommendation and no apparent opposition, the commission placed this on its consent agenda.
Thank you. The next item is number 12 for Valvoline LLC. Please come forward and state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Rob Beeman, Virginia Beach Land Use Attorney, here today on behalf of the applicant. We've had a chance to read these conditions as well. These are acceptable, and we appreciate being on consent. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I've asked Commissioner Costin to please speak on this item.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate an automobile repair garage on the southern portion of a 2-acre out parcel within the Holland Windsor Crossing Shopping Center, Zone B2 Community Business District. A lease line divides the northern and the southern portion of the property. An existing automobile repair garage, Discount Tire, is located on the northern half portion of the lot. This proposal will occupy the southern half of the lot. The applicant is seeking to construct a 2,087 square foot automobile repair garage that will provide drive-through limited maintenance services such as oil changes, power steering fluid service, and battery replacement. Provided services will be limited to those that can be done while the customer can remain in their vehicles. The applicant anticipates up to 50 cars will be serviced daily. The commission has agreed with the staff in that this is acceptable, and we have placed this item on the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. The next item, item number 13 for Christina Rojas at Red Mill North LLC for conditional use permit for a tattoo parlor. Please come forward. If you can just state your name for the record.
Yep, Christiana Rojas.
All right, thank you. And do you accept the conditions?
Yes, I do.
Thanks. You may be seated. Is there any opposition to this item being placed on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I have Mr. Clemens to speak on this event.
Thank you.
Item.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a tattoo parlor specifically for the application of permanent makeup known as microblading within an existing beauty salon at Red Mill Commons Shopping Center. The shopping center is located along Upton Drive on property zone B2 Community Business District. Microblading will take place in a small private room within the beauty salon, and according to the applicant, there will be one employee. In light of the staff recommendation and no apparent opposition, the commission placed it on its consent agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, that was the last item for the consent agenda. The Planning Commission places the following applications on the consent agenda. Items number 1, number 3, number 5, number 6, number 7 and 8, number 11, number 12, and number 13.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alcaraz. All right, so that was not a motion, but So could you state that again as a motion?
Sure, I move that these items 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, and 13 be
Okay.
approved for consent.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Alcaraz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. And a second. Second by,
I'll second that.
okay. Yes. Okay, and do we have any abstentions? We have, okay, and an abstention by Mr. Frankenfield.
People are here to help me out. Thank you. I asked for, I'm going to abstain pursuant to the Conflicts of Interest Act. I have a letter on file with the city attorney, and I have a previous business relationship with this, with Siphon Associates, and will abstain from this vote.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, to clarify, that's for item number 7 on the consent agenda. I'm sorry, not item number 7, item number 6. Item number 6 on the consent agenda that Mr. Frankenfield is abstaining from. It should be item number 6 that he's abstaining from, not the whole consent agenda.
Can you speak? I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. Mr. Frankenfield is abstaining from item number 6 on the consent agenda. He's not abstaining on the whole consent agenda.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I note a motion by Mr. Alcaraz, a second by Mr. Clemens. The vote is open. Mr. Frankenfield, can we get your vote, please? By a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, noting an abstention by Commissioner Frankenfield from agenda item number 6, agenda items 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 11, 12, and 13 have all been recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. If you had an application that was on the consent agenda, your request will now be scheduled for an upcoming city council meeting. Staff will contact you about the dates. For those applicants on the consent agenda, thank you for your participation, and you can remain in the meeting either virtually or in person, but you're free to leave. The next order of business is the regular agenda. Madam Clerk, we're ready for the first item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 2, Bonnie's Corner Associates LLP. It's an application for conditional rezoning, B2 Community Business District to conditional B4 Mixed Use District at 1385 Fordham Drive in Council District 1, formerly the Kempsville District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is R.J. Nutter. I'm an attorney representing the applicant, Bonnie's Corner Associates. First, let me thank the staff who did an awful lot of work on this application. If any of you dealt with Wah, asked more questions than there are pages to his report. But that always works out in everyone's benefit because you get the facts out right away. But anyway, I've represented this client for a number of years. And this is a 1970s version shopping center. And it's zone B2. The interior portion is just over 20 acres, as he indicated to you. And the problem they've been facing is the same problem that's been facing many large retail centers across the country, and in particular in this Hampton Roads area. The larger box locations on this facility have been vacant now for several years, to a point where it not only impacted the loss of revenue from those players, but it was also affecting the bottom lines of every one of the single remaining mom and pop shops. They'd lost the people that had directed the traffic to their center. So after they started losing some of those, we started meeting with city leaders about how to deal with this, as it was an issue that was coming forth to the country all about the same time in 2019, 2020. With the advent of Amazon and other retailers of that nature, shops like this were having considerable trouble. So at that time, we actually met with the mayor, and we met with then the district representative, Jessica Abbott. We met with the then planning commission representative for that area, Mr. Wiener. We met with Mrs. Wooten, who represents the adjacent area. and worked through all of that with them. And they all understood the problem and all wanted to be supportive of how we move forward with this application. With that in mind, we then filed an application with the city almost 2 years ago. That application went through a wide variety of staff review, and we put it on hold for a while because there was some possibility of city putting some uses in the property. We put it on hold. None of those uses came to fruition, and the situation at the center has gotten worse. We were at that point about 40% vacant. We're now over 57. In fact, the number I have is 57%. I'm not going to quibble with where I was 56%, but it's a considerable problem. And so that presents, how do you then preserve this center from going further down the tubes? We then, in addition to that, we're working with staff. We then started a program of outreach to the various departments and other agencies that would have an impact here. Those being the traffic department, those being stormwater, all of those agencies we try to reach out to make sure we understood their issues. Now, I will tell you that we're happy to have staff's recommendation of approval. It did not come lightly. They went through every issue you can think of. And we've also, the benefits of it is we maintain a traffic level for people inside the center. Now, all of a sudden, the people that live in these apartment complexes can go directly to the retail shops directly there. And the nice part about that, and this is not reflected in the traffic report, by the way, the nice part about that is that that's going to reduce traffic impact even further and drive up the ability of the small shops to stay in business. The traffic report we did do, however, assumed that it was a freestanding multifamily project independent of a shopping center. So it assumed that everyone who lived in that complex would drive off-site to retail, shops, to restaurants, to the movie theaters, all of the features to which they can walk inside the center. In fact, it's really just taking this old shopping center and making it a mixed-use center like we're used to seeing more and more frequently throughout your application process. So the benefits of this application are not just to the center's owners and the tenants of that center, but it also stopped the decline of this center, which was a major factor when we met with the Acredale Civic League, which is a large civic league David knows very well. This is just to the north of the site, and with well over 600 homes. And they expressed the exact same concern. What happens if we don't do something like this? So we're happy to have Mr. Knoll's letter and to support. We met with our Civic League Executive Committee. Rocky Holcomb attended that meeting. David unfortunately had a conflict that evening, couldn't attend, but I did want to let you know that. The other benefits, in addition to the tenant preservation and holding on to the shopping center, this actually reduces traffic from what this would be if it were developed in a commercial manner. David said during the internal meeting earlier today, he was there when the shopping center was fully operational and knows the impacts of it. This will actually reduce the traffic along that situation. In addition to that, we've introduced a large amount of landscaping and open space on this site. Currently, this is 100% impervious cover, 100%. Today, we'll be introducing a reduction of almost 2 acres of that area, putting it into green space, walkways, park areas, and perimeter landscaping, none of which really exists on the site today. As you can see from the exhibit that is all around me, as a matter of fact, I just noticed that's the only way I can see it, is, by the way, is the fact we've introduced a really cool feature through the center, which I want to thank Hua for. It was his idea to come up with a walkway through the center to connect the 2 areas of the multifamily. So that's been a really nice addition to this, in addition to all the things I've already mentioned. So there you have it. You have an application, staff recommend approval, going to preserve the shopping center, reduce traffic, and reduce the amount of impervious area by over 2 acres, which is a considerable benefit to all the areas around it in terms of how much water comes off the site. In addition to that, we then met with, we heard from Lake James Civic Association. We had a meeting with them just about 2 weeks ago, and a large group from them attended a meeting in my office and went through these issues and so forth. So their concern, and I'm sure they're going to express it, is the lake. It's the lake in their backyard, which is regional stormwater pond, is actually its purpose, but we understand it's a significant benefit to them. So we told them about the reduction in the amount of acreage that we'd be taking and converting from impervious to pervious. And we told them we'd also be participating in the state's programs for water quality. Since that time, they asked us to look at a program that the city was doing, which at that time I didn't know anything about, which there's a program, actually an approved program called the Kemps River Water Quality Improvement Project. I didn't know about it. Mr. Wiener, you may not know about it either. I've come to find it, it's fully funded by the city. Its intent is to take large portions of this area and have a treatment process for it, independent of the private property owners. Again, it's fully funded by the city to this date. I told the Civic League this morning that upon learning about it, we advised the city we would participate in that process because we think we can do a little better. So we do plan on participating in that, which will affect directly the quality of the water going into the lake. So finally, I'll add that we're aware of a petition that's been passed around who we have no contact with any of the people involved in the petition. But it complains about this on the basis of impact on schools. And your report already indicates that the schools are this is well inside the capacity of all 3 schools serving this area. They were concerned about flooding. They obviously didn't know we were reducing the amount of water on the site considerably. And they were concerned about, and traffic. They didn't know about the traffic study. So that's part of the problem with a petition like this is they get going without any of the knowledge of the facts. You have no way of reaching it out to them in a meaningful way. But I did want us to know that the concerns raised in that petition have all been addressed, not just by the applicant, but confirmed by your staff. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, and I appreciate your time this afternoon, Mr. Wall, as always.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant?
No, hearing none. Thank you very much. I look forward to any response or rebuttal.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have 7 registered speakers. 5 are in person and 2 are WebEx. Calling Peggy Sansone to be followed by Dawn Davis.
Okay, can you state your name for the record, please?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Peggy Sansone, and I'm the Lake James Environmental Committee Chair and HOA Board Member. I'm here today representing the views of the Lake James Homeowners Association. I would also like at this moment to recognize how many people from Lake James have attended here today. If you could please stand to give you an idea of the concerns that our community have. A lot of them have taken time off from work. Many, many more wanted to attend, but given the day and the hour, it was difficult for them to do this. Thank you. I also want to thank the Commission for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about this proposed Kemps River apartment project and its impact on Lake James. The Lake James community is 37 years old. And our community has spent the past 30 years caring for and being passionate and fierce stewards of our lake. Lake James is a unique community. It is a 100-acre freshwater lake originally created from underground aquifers in a sandbarrow pit. Even though Lake James does have a B&P designation, Lake James is a privately owned lake by the residents and the HOA. Residents moved to Lake James because of its amenities. Our residents enjoy swimming, boating, and all water recreational activities, good fishing there too. We pay higher property taxes for waterfront property. We all pay our city stormwater management fees. I invite you to go to the Lake James website for more information on our particular community. It's www.lakejamesvb.com. Our community spends thousands of dollars every single year on professional water quality testing and treatment. We are very, very good stewards of our lake. We educate our community. We encourage people to use 0 or less lawn products, maintain riparian buffers, scoop the poop, shoo away domestic waterfowl, and do anything we can to try to maintain the health of our lake. Several years ago, we purchased and installed a floating island, which uptakes nutrients in the water. And this summer, we installed a floating boom to help collect trash. We have worked with the city of Virginia Beach to correct problems over the years. I can also direct you to the Virginia Beach Public Works website under Stormwater Management to view Lake James water discussion. We also have enlisted the help of Old Dominion Environmental Sciences Department, the Virginia Department of Health, the Virginia DEQ, Army Corps of Engineers, Elizabeth River Project, Lynn Haven Now, the Virginia Aquarium Testing Program, and many more experts. Lake James Environmental Committee has also trained and attended webinars on lake quality management. This is the culmination since 1999 up until 2022. This is the culmination of just the work of the Lake James Environmental Committee. I'm the archivist that gets stuck rolling the books around. There is still more left at home. I just couldn't bring any more. We recently did meet, as Mr. Nutter indicated, with the developers' representatives to discuss our concerns about stormwater. We were pleased to hear from him this morning that indeed that they are going to be working with the city for this planned stormwater improvement that's going to be located at Kemps River. But we really do need more than just that one tapping into that system. The shopping center is a large contributor of stormwater runoff in the lake. Large volumes of untreated water have contributed to the pollution and the nutrient overloads in our lake over the years. New businesses that have come to the Indian River and Kempsville Road corridor have implemented a variety of stormwater management practices, specifically Chick-fil-A, Carolot Pet Center, Walgreens, and the Aldi's on Kempsville Road. If you go and visit any of those sites, you will find that they have implemented one or more various kind of stormwater strategies to include inline collection of their stormwater on their site, dry swales, and Filtera systems. They're all very good examples of how all types of businesses can do more. In order for the Lake James HOA and community to support this proposed rezoning and development plan, much more needs to be done by the developer to implement a variety of systems to specifically hold as well as filter the stormwater before it enters into Lake James and downstream the Elizabeth River and eventually getting to the Chesapeake Bay. The use of nutrient credits is not acceptable to the Lake James community. In the scientific literature on stormwater management, you will see cited one of the primary goals of stormwater management is to treat the source. And forebays are identified as an excellent type of way to do that. Stormwater management is necessary to not only mitigate nutrient overload, pollution, and harmful algae blooms, but also to manage and prevent flooding. Uncontrolled large volumes of stormwater that have entered into Lake James over the years have caused damage to our docks and our bulkheads. Docks are submerged, they stay submerged, the wood rots out, high water levels get back behind bulkheads, the soil softens, the pressure, bulkheads fall over. This is something that we have wrestled with for years. The holding and filtering of stormwater at Kemps River redevelopment will be a very important step in preventing flooding and preventing property damage. Recommended stormwater management by our Lake James HOA include the use of dry swales, rain gardens, mini wetlands with forebays, inline containment of stormwater, Filtera systems. We would like to see a variety of these different types of systems installed at the Kemps River project. Examples of these types of stormwater management systems can be viewed, as I previously mentioned, Chick-fil-A, Aldi's, and what have you. But I've also compiled a list just a drive around of the city, and 23 items on this list. This is just a quick cursory look rolling around the city of where I saw many, many different type of stormwater management implemented in all different types of businesses and what have you. I'd like to draw your attention, especially, I'll hand those copies of this over, to item number 9. If anyone could visit, including the developer, Lowe's on Virginia Beach Boulevard and Parker Street, down south past where Lynn Haven enters into Virginia Beach Boulevard. That's an excellent example. In the corner of their parking lot, they have created a wet pond with plantings. It's fenced off if they're worried about someone falling in. But it's a very, very good example of how they have, between curb cuts and inline piping, they draw off the stormwater off their parking lot into this contained area. All right. If this project is to be approved, we are concerned about the demolition and construction debris blowing in our neighborhood, flowing into our lake during storms. Necessary steps for containment would be necessary. In conclusion, we don't want to see a blighted area over there at Kemps River. We would like to see a nice development. 2, we still have concerns about that increased traffic on Indian River Road. We worry a lot about the ingress and egress in and out of our neighborhood, which is still problematic at this time. We request that the Centerville Turnpike Improvement Project that was promised in 2013 be reactivated, and I received an email this morning saying apparently they are starting that project back up, because specifically, just for me to finish my point, it will help considerably as congestion will stack up, as you have a stack-up lane of people coming down Indian River to turn left to go into their apartment complex. People get irritated, don't want to wait to go down to the next 2 light cycles to get to Kempsville. So historically, what we've already experienced, everybody cuts through Lake James. It's so bad, as indicated by the city of Virginia Beach and their traffic calming programs, we were able to get speed bumps, speed tables installed in our neighborhood to try to cut down on the volume of traffic and the terrible speeding. So it's good to hear that the Centerville Turnpike. Lastly, on our conclusions, most importantly, we want to have strong and effective multiple stormwater management to help us protect the lake. The final site plan should include a variety of filtering devices, as I previously cited, specifically to not just filter, but to hold the stormwater before it is flushed into the lake. The city of Virginia Beach should take this and every opportunity to implement stormwater management at all development sites. Every stormwater practice, whether large or small, every little bit helps. Please help us keep our lake healthy. We have labored 20+ years to try to keep our lake clean and safe. There's only so much we can do just as private citizens. We need your help. Lake James is not a community with a little old sediment pond. Our lake is a vibrant 52-foot deep water body with numerous fish, turtles, and other marine species. We have great blue herons, ospreys, bald eagles. The migratory ducks have arrived, to include, we have coots, hooded mergansers, buffleheads, painted ducks, and once in a while we get pelicans. River otters are also visitors to our lake. We need your help to protect this important resource and ecosystem. Lastly, we request the Planning Commission please defer their decision on this rezoning request until the Lake James community, the city of Virginia Beach, and the developer can come to an acceptable agreement on effective storm management. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Please.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Are there any questions?
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have a question. Mrs. Sanson? right?
Sansone.
Okay. So you're fine with what the other businesses on Indian River Road have done, Chick-fil-A, Petco, all those have done?
Please go visit.
And those were built before the water regulations that are in place now, today. Okay, hold on, let me finish. So what they're gonna have to, if this development goes through, the strict water regulations that they're gonna have to follow is a large percentage of that water has to stay on site. It can't go anywhere. So this is just what I gotta say. I would be more concerned with what's going on now than what would be. Because what would be a filtration system, and it has to stay on site. You'll get less water into your lake in the future if this is developed. And I'm gonna say what a city council person said. He's no longer with us, and I always steal his line. The best way to fix stormwater, or not fix stormwater, but to work on stormwater is to redevelop. Okay, so that to me, I would be more concerned about what's going on now than what could be in the future.
We are concerned because that Kemps River Shopping Center was built 30 years ago, as you said, before we had all these environmental regulations and even an understanding of nutrient overloads flowing into water bodies. Now is the time. If that shopping center is to be torn up, this is the time, given what we know and have today by technology. Some are very low tech. You create dry swells. That means you bulldoze out a shallow area, you plant grass in it, and you allow curb cuts or you allow means for water, the stormwater to run over to it, and boom, you've got holding and you've got filtering of stormwater.
And I agree with you 100%. That's what I'm just stating, I agree with you. That's all.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. Thank you so much. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Redmond.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So would you not agree that it's an improvement of the site?
The
Not
development,
just for the architecture and the mix of uses and all, right, but it's going to create 2 more acres of impervious where there is none. Would that not be an improvement?
it's an improvement, it's not enough.
Okay,
They're
so-
mostly
but-
grassy areas which have minimal absorption. Grassy areas in the literature have minimal absorptions. It's good, it's better than pavement, but it has minimal absorption.
I'm not sure how you can suggest that if we just keep going on with 100% impervious cover on that site, and all that that implies, until mythically agreement is reached, that's going to be a better outcome than to make improvements on the site today. I mean, Mr. Weiner says, or Mr. Nutter says you've been talking since Jessica Abbott was on council. I have no confidence whatsoever that that day of agreement ever comes. I mean, it hasn't yet. Is it ever going to be enough? So, I mean, I recall the Lowe's when it was developed, that was not 100% impervious cover. They had to put a pond there for a reason, right? So it's not they did because it was fun or they did it out of the goodness of their heart. It seems to me this is in many, 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 many ways an enormous improvement today, including in terms of its environmental by virtue of the pervious that's to be created and the applicant's participation in the city program, of which I was unaware as well. So, I mean, we all learn things every day. It seems to me that this just, it's on its face is an improvement environmentally for what runs off anywhere, including to Lake James. So I'm missing this. Tell me what it is. And apparently you've got no formula other than a list of, fill this system and that system and all this kind of thing, none of which is certain. What is certain to me is it's an improvement.
Okay, your question being, would we prefer a decaying shopping center over a nice development?
Would you prefer
The answer is
today,
no.
would you prefer that which exists today over an improvement, a significant improvement of that which exists today? They're going to create pervious cover, and they're going to participate in the city's program. Again, I don't know much about it, but you seem to like that idea as well. That seems to me very, very significant. And when you add in the other benefits, where is it not the no-brainer is kind of my question is. Improvement is improvement. It gets better. I don't know that a kind of a mythical sort of better state that exists than one that's being offered today. Because this looks pretty good, objectively.
In response, the Kemps River project would be a good project, but it needs more in terms of stormwater holding and filtration. That is the issue that we have. We do not like a decaying shopping center over there. It would be an improvement, but it's a large 20-acre parcel which 100% drains into our lake, which
I
has
got
been
that
bad.
part. Well, I got that part. Thanks. That, by the way, that 2 acres, that's 2 whole Chick-fil-A properties. I mean, that's a significant piece of improvement. So anyway, I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Another question?
Yeah, Mr. Frankfield.
Maybe it's a comment. I wonder if, Bobby, if you could help us understand. I don't believe this did a preliminary stormwater analysis, which was not required. But when they go through the stormwater site plan process, won't these methods of swales, rain gardens be or considered for the project? In other words, it's not going to do nothing. They're going to do some of these things.
Mr. Frankfield, that's correct. Through the site plan review process, it will still have to meet our stormwater management standards. I think that's where Mr. Weiner was also alluding to. Because the site is completely impervious, there is an option for a 10% reduction in impervious cover, which meets those standards to do the reduction as called out in the state regulations. Also, the staff will be checking to see if it meets that reduction too. So it could be possible that the 10% reduction, which is about approximately the 2 acres that's being called out, will meet that along with some type of inline device that could easily be associated with this project. In other words, there'd be some type of water quality device that could be installed prior to it going downstream into Lake James, as was noted by the speaker. So there are multiple ways to do it. They could do it with, like I said, a structured device underground or some type of other above ground system, but that will be vetted through the site plan review process in our department in the Development Services Center.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, hold on.
No, I'm
Okay, yes,
Mr.
go ahead,
Don.
Mr. Wayne.
Mr. Don, I don't know if you know about this or not. I know Carrie Burkholt's not here. Is there any way you can fill us in on what this Kemps River Water Quality Improvement program is? Is there a short answer to that?
Other than I found the CIP list here from November 2022. I don't know if someone from Public Works has any background to it, but there is apparently a timeline of doing some construction that's scheduled from November 23 to August 24 to do a pollutant removal of a good level of pollutant removal going into Lake James. Looks like there's a total phosphorus removal of almost 5 pounds, and the suspended solids is 714 pounds per year. So not an insignificant project. Looks like it's totaled at almost $600,000 to do these improvements. We could share that with the commission. I just found this right now, so.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Don Davis, followed by Don Hawker.
I'm Don Davis, also from Lake James. Mr. Weiner, to answer your question, the tie-in from the Kemps River storm drains all goes into one 84-inch pipe that leaves the interior of Kemps River and goes into Lake James, which is where the Kemps River project is going to be built. That is going to be placed where all of the internal drains there come in. It's going to filter out the trash and the rubbish and the phosphorus, and to remove that prior to it going into the lake, which is the reason that we were hoping that the builder would work with the city to tie the drains in as the construction evolves, instead of this ending up being two separate projects. As I said, there's one 84-inch pipe that encompasses the entire area there. So that project has been put off, I think, 3 different times. It was supposed to have been completed 3 years ago. And now the new due date is, I think, 2025, or something like that. Nonetheless, I think our biggest concern is that the other thing that was mentioned was pursuing of the credits for what am I looking for? Yeah, pollution credits. They can either work with the city, put in swales and things like that, but we can't stand for purchasing of pollution credits to bypass treating our lake fairly and our residents fairly. That's not going to be tolerable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Don Hawker, followed by Karen Nusquiz.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Hawker. I live in Lake James on the lake at the north end, very close to where this project is going to be constructed. Between my house and my neighbor's house is a city right-of-way for a drainage ditch that carries the stormwater to the lake. And when we get these big rainstorms, I step out of my back door and I watch the water gushing into the lake, carrying with it paper, plastic, styrofoam, aluminum cans, glass. Some things are fairly embarrassing that end up floating in my lake. And when the rain stops and the birds are done swimming around all the garbage and they go off, we go down to our lake with our nets and start scooping out all the garbage that the city flushed into our lake. It's not very pleasant when you have friends over in the backyard for a cookout or we're kayaking or swimming, and I have to get my net real quick to scoop garbage out of the lake so my friends aren't swimming in it. So I understand that tearing up pavement and putting down grass will reduce the amount of water, but adding 300 homes, 600 cars, 1,000 people, and a bunch of shops that presumably have dumpsters behind them, they're emptied at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You should come by sometime when they're emptying the dumpsters, the ones near Chick-fil-A, not at Chick-fil-A. And we get the 5 o'clock clang, a wake-up call. So all of this, I suspect, is going to add to the amount of garbage in the streets, which means it's going to add to the amount of garbage that I'm fishing out of my lake. Now, if I come by your house sometime this evening with my Happy Meal, I finish eating it, and I toss my trash in your backyard, I don't think you would like that very much. But the city does that to me after every rainstorm, the big ones, not the little ones. So I would like some assurances, I don't know what you could possibly give me, that all of this development and construction, the additional cars, people, and restaurants and shops will not increase the garbage I have to fish out of my lake. In addition, when the developer says that all these houses, cars, people, and shops will reduce traffic, that does not build my confidence because that doesn't pass the smell test. There's a Chick-fil-A that we just added, and I like it. I eat there myself, and they're closed on Sunday. But to suggest that that Chick-fil-A reduced the amount of traffic is insane. Trying to get into Lake James, if you're coming down heading west, is difficult because of the 5 cars in front of you. 4 of them want to do a U-turn to go get their chicken. So we do have traffic problems, and we do have stormwater problems. And we have been asking for a very long time for the city to do something about all the garbage. Some guy drives by, tosses a cigarette butt out the window. A couple of days later, I'm fishing it out of the lake. So I don't oppose this project at a genetic level. I mean, it would be nice if they had nice shops and a nice housing, a nice peaceful neighborhood, and that thing sitting there undeveloped is not good for us. It's not good for the city. Something sooner or later is going in there. But I want something that's not going to damage what I have worked so hard to own. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Sir. Yes, sir. How long have you lived in your house?
We bought it in 1992. I've been here 30 years. It's paid for.
Okay. I've been in the area for 30 years myself, and I know what it was like when Farm Fresh was at full speed and Kmart was full speed. It was. Could you imagine the Chick-fil-A there then when that was in full speed? It would have been crazy. But I mean, I understand what you're talking about, trash. And I get it. I got to believe that a lot of that comes from Indian River Road, not from Kemps River Shopping Center right now.
Not right now.
But let me finish. So this developer, he's very well known. I think he's going to run well, if this does go through, it'll be a very well development. It's going to be taken care of. People that are doing apartments want to make sure it's taken care of because they can't lease them if they're run down. So they're going to be taken care of very well. There's a lot of things we're going to talk with the applicant about, but I think this is a very big improvement of what is there now.
Well, it would certainly be an improvement in terms of aesthetics and the tax base of the city. And if there are nice shops, I can walk right across the street and take advantage of them, which is why I'm not just hardcore opposed to this. But I'm not inclined to have someone say, oh, we'll take care of that, and then do something which may or may not be detrimental to me. I'm trusting them. I'm basically at their mercy. If they build it and it doesn't work out so well, I know we've had some developers do construction projects that turned out to be flood problems, and the city had to go in and pay millions of dollars to fix their mistakes. So if this is another mistake, are you going to come up with all the money to fix my lake?
Now, that was a learning lesson, and our water restrictions today are not worse, I won't say worse, they're more strict than the state's water restrictions. And the city of Virginia Beach is stricter than the state. So that's a...
Water quality?
No, not water quality. Keeping storm water on the site.
So including trash and whatever else?
Yes.
So next time it rains and my lake gets flooded and it's flushing all this garbage in there and I take videos of it, can I send you the videos? Will you look at them?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Karen Nuskowitz, followed by Luvenia Hankins.
Hello, my name is Karen Nuskowitz. I've lived in Homestead, which is right less than a mile from Kemps River, since 1977. And the first thing I was going to talk about was the stormwater, but I think that's been talked about enough. I would like to also add that I don't think nutrient credits are the answer. Seems to me you're taking the problem and just putting it somewhere else. My main concern with this project is the cost to the taxpayers. I'm sure all of you as homeowners in Virginia Beach, when you stroked that check in December, you realized that you never truly own your home. So my problem with this is the cost to the taxpayers. School, the impact's going to be $3 million. I'm really not opposed to the project. Looks like it would be pretty nice with some greenery and stuff. But I think before this is approved, experts, which I'm obviously not, experts need to look at this and see how to mitigate the impact on the taxpayers. I think I said everything. Please let experts look at the impact of the taxes on us.
Okay, are there any questions? Mr. Red?
No, but I was just going to. Sorry. I was just going to say, if you have not read this staff report, I urge you to do so. And you can have my copy if you like, because I have. The staff for each one of the applications that comes before us and subsequently then to City Council produces a report, and they are experts. And they pull in a whole bunch of information, and that's a good place to start. Too seldom does anybody read that. And so I would, you're more than welcome to have mine.
When you say staff reports, are you talking about what came from traffic? And
Came from, yes, correct. Mr. DeHaan's Department of Planning and Community Development does a summary of each one of these applications and lays out the effects for schools and all that stuff. You have that?
I read them. That's
Okay.
how I found out school impact would be about $3 million.
$3 million.
As far as population, the schools can absorb it. That's not a problem because I think we're underpopulated, but it's the money. We're going to get priced out of our home. These taxes continue going up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Luvenia Hankins, followed by Thomas Adder.
Hello.
Hello, please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry?
State your name for the record, please.
My name is Lavinia Hankins. So I am a business owner in the Kemps River Shopping Center, and my concern is the integrity of the information that's been shared with us as business owners, and whether or not the full process has been integral. So this is the second time that I've heard of this project in the past year. So the first time I was tipped off by somebody who works at the Outback. And when I presented it to the property manager, I asked her about it, and she gave me a solid, this is, I don't know how you heard it or what you heard, or, but that's not true. Nothing's happening with the shopping center. And then God, the universe, whoever you guys choose to believe in, came to me again because my customers actually came in and told me that, hey, have you seen that there's a meeting about the upcoming project of a shopping center? Okay, no one's told me. I haven't heard anything from the manager, from the leasing agent, or anyone affiliated with this application. So that concerns me because I have presented on multiple occasions to the manager about opportunities to bring in more traffic, which my business actually brings in a very niche group of people who are exposed to to the shopping center through my restaurant, and also we pass a lot of traffic back and forth to the Planet Fitness that's also in the shopping center, along with all the other businesses. So we do a lot to support the local businesses and the other businesses that are in the shopping center. I have presented a farmer's market that would bring in a ton of traffic based on my model. I do have documentation that I presented this to the manager, and she presented it to the owners, in which they declined. I offered to acquire the space next door and as an opportunity to expand the business and to create more foot traffic and opportunity for patrons to come into the shopping center. And I just did want to bring up that the attorney for this application, representing this application, said that 2 years ago they applied for this project, and 2 years ago I signed the lease. And so again, integrity, honesty. I didn't open my doors until September of 2020, and I signed the lease in June or July of 2020. So at that time, it could have been disclosed to me that this was something that was being done to the shopping center.
Your time's up. Your time's up.
Oh, okay. Wow.
3 minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
Quite quickly. All right.
Okay, I just want to know how this is going to affect the businesses. Now, I have seen this successfully happen in Summit Point and Chesapeake and in other places. I would
right,
just want to know how this is.
So are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
What's your address, your business address?
1309 Fordham Drive, Suite 106.
Where's it located?
I'm sorry?
Where is it located?
In the core of the shopping center.
I'm saying, where in the shopping center?
In the core on the side of Rainbow, catty corner to Outback Steakhouse, directly across from Planet Fitness.
Okay.
Mr. Ton, is the signs being that there's 3, I guess, streets, is there a sign per street?
Yes, there was a requirement to post the signs on the 3 different streets that were
3 different
surrounding.
streets.
Mhm. Yes, sir.
And you didn't see those yellow signs, the placards on
Absolutely not.
orange?
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Redmond.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What was the name of your business?
Culture Vegan Joint.
Okay, thank you.
And I do want to note that 2 years ago, at my grand opening, Mayor Bobby Dyer, Councilwoman Sabrina Wooten, Councilman Michael Berlucci, at the time Jessica Abbott, and other prominent members were at my grand opening.
So I've got a question. So do you feel this would negatively affect your business?
Well, it's not that I disagree with the plans. It's that I would like notice as to how it's going to affect my business. The construction, particularly, rising costs. Is this going to raise my rent? Is this going to, am I going to be grandfathered in? Do I have first right of refusal? Sure. What are my rights in this transaction? And is it going to benefit my business? I am a Black-owned business as well in the city, so I feel like I contribute a lot to the growing diaspora of business ownership in Virginia Beach.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I got one more question. I'm sorry. I just want to verify, because I'm not are you in the same strip shop as Outback?
Yes.
Okay, just want to verify that. Thank you. Because that whole strip shop is staying.
Okay.
Right, that's not being taken away. Where your business is, it's going to stay there.
Okay. And again, I just wanted disclosure, as to exactly what's going on and how it's going to affect us. Some type of notice saying these are the things being presented. If you would like to know more, here's where you can go to find out.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thomas Etter, followed by Micaiah Drew.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Etter. I'm president of the Lake James Homeowners Association. We're located right across Indian River Drive from this development, and hence our keen interest in this development. We have 247 homes
and a lake that we're very proud of, and we spend a lot of time recreating in. The board of directors met specifically on this subject. We did a lot of research. We talked to Mr. Nutter and got a presentation from him. And our conclusion is this is no doubt, as you mentioned, a big improvement in that shopping center. And we therefore support the rezoning, but we have some conditions on which we support that rezoning. And this goes back to the stormwater runoff issue, the environmental issue. We don't want to see the use of nutrient credits. You talked about, Mr. Riemann, you talked about, oh, this is a great, huge improvement. Why would you want anything more? Well, why stop at that? Mr. Frankenfield over there and I are members of the Process Improvement Steering Committee for City Council. And I spend a lot of time advising them on process improvement initiatives and how to do process improvement. One of the things that I always emphasize is if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You got to continuously improve, or you're going backwards. So why would we stop at this improvement and then allow nutrients or nutrient credits, the use of them to allow debris and contaminants to flow into the lake? So our approval is based on or contingent on not allowing nutrient credits and making sure that the stormwater system redesign as part of the redevelopment has methods and means to prevent contamination and debris from flowing into Lake James. We're also concerned about traffic. And we recognize that the traffic will probably be a little less than what it was originally when the shopping center was put into operation, but it's going to be more than it is now. And so we would encourage the city to follow through with their January 2025 plan to expand.
Thank you. Your time's up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the speaker? If you can stay up there 1 second. Questions? Mr. Frankenfield.
So, bottom line, when you get done, your proposal is no use of nutrient credits and expand other stormwater or address other stormwater opportunities. You got anything else? Otherwise, you like it, right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. Oh, that's my fault. All right, so just, if we could just get to the bottom line of what your group is recommending. So you support the project, but you do not, you want to have no use.
We wouldn't support it
if you meet these conditions, which are?
Which is?
Okay.
What we would like to see is in writing the requirement to not use nutrient credits, to actually put into place physical means of limiting and minimizing stormwater from carrying debris and contamination into Lake James.
Or is there anything else? Is that the big one?
And we'd like to see the city continue to go forward with their plan to expand Centerville Turnpike to 4 lanes, which we think would help out with the traffic situation. Those are our 2 contingencies.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
The environmental one being more important.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Our final 2 speakers are both WebEx. Micaiah Drew, followed by Drew Little. Ms. Drew, if you would, we will unmute your audio. If you would state your name and then begin your comments.
Good
afternoon. My name is Micaiah Drew. Thank you for hearing public comments on this today. I do appreciate the online accommodation, which allows us to participate in the middle of the workday. I have been a Virginia Beach resident for over 13 years, and I live within 1 mile of the proposal area. While I agree that a revitalization of sorts is needed in the shopping center, I do not believe that the current proposal has been fully explored and is not the best decision for the area at this time. I am in opposition of the proposal for the following 3 reasons. Reason number 1, insufficient parking spaces. On page 2 of the proposal, the site plan shows over 1,000 parking spaces will be provided. However, page 8 of the proposal only shows the minimum 922 parking spots. Of these, the parking spots surrounding the Panera and Dollar Tree will remain impacted by cars cutting through. Panera's drive-through also impacts the parking spaces negatively, as cars waiting in line make that area difficult to navigate. Furthermore, the remaining Outback Strip experiences heavy parking impacts almost every evening of the week. I'm uncertain that apartments will allow sufficient access to an already busy parking lot. Lastly, there are parking spaces counted behind the 2 commercial buildings that will remain. I feel it's unrealistic to count those spots. For example, people will not want to walk around a 35,000 square foot building to pick up dinner. 2 of the proposed apartments would be directly in front of the current commercial parking and create this additional impact. Reason number 2, traffic impacts. According to the traffic memorandum, while it is true that the proposed multifamily rezoning use may result in less traffic, to use the existing traffic counts in the analysis could lead to an invalid conclusion, as over 50% of the shopping centers are not currently being used in an active commercial capacity. Yet despite this, traffic congestion continues in the surrounding roads, and you will find that the current traffic situation is already suffering without the shopping center impact that the memorandum seems to suggest. I implore you to take a drive to this area anytime after 1 p.m. during the week to experience what I'm talking about. Additionally, the proposal indicates that traffic counts were not available for Fordham Drive. But this is the local street around the proposed area, and many cars use it to make a U-turn to access the post office or cut around the previously mentioned traffic issues. Traffic counts for the secondary roads should be considered, with a formal traffic study conducted based on the current percentage of commercial use. And reason number 3, additional impacts. The proposal does not clarify who will pay for the public utility impact on page 6. Based on my knowledge of the billing systems with both the City of Virginia Beach and HRSD, I would assume there may be some impacts to those of us most proximate, and I believe the nearby residents should know what those impacts could be because of the group sewage charge we pay every month. In closing, I suggest further study and research into the proposal for the 3 areas of concern I mentioned here today before proceeding with the project, including insufficient parking, traffic impacts, and additional nearby resident impacts. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you.
Our final speaker is.
Hold on, are there any questions for can we do online questions? Yep. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay.
Final speaker is Drew Little. If you would wait while we unmute your audio, state your name, and then begin your comments.
My name is Drew Little. Thank you for this afternoon. A lot of what I've been concerned about has been covered. I did want to make a couple of quick notes. First of all, the petition that's been circulating is not about stormwater. It is mostly about traffic. And the assertion by Mr. Nutter that people have not read the traffic survey is actually not correct. I've shared it many times myself, and I've read it thoroughly myself. For most of the petitioners, over 1,300 now, the main concern is traffic. If you drive through this area, you know that it's a harrowing drive at peak periods. There's more than a 1,000-foot backup northbound on Kempsville at peak periods. It's difficult to get in and out of Lake James. It causes backups onto the interstate. People who would normally take Indian River Road east now take Indian River Road west, cross Rion, and go down Providence, causing further backups at Kempsville and Providence. All of the neighborhoods along the way are affected. Stratford Chase, Lake James, they're all being used as cut-throughs. And at high speed, and we can get no help from the police on this. It's very dangerous. The #1 most dangerous intersection in Virginia Beach, according to the Virginia Beach Police, is Indian River and Kempsville Road. It has 63% more crashes than the second most dangerous intersection. 2 more of the most dangerous intersections are also in Kempsville, Baxter and Princess Anne, and Indian River and Providence. Kempsville can't take more traffic, and the traffic report is flawed. The study is flawed. To say that 300 plus high-density residences replacing vacant shops will reduce traffic by almost 30% is absurd on the face of it. This traffic study needs to be redone, and the city needs to get engaged in mitigating traffic before any development is done that will increase traffic to the area. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Little? Okay, thank you.
There are no more speakers.
Okay, Mr. Nutter?
Thank you. Well, a couple of things I'd like to say. First, I'd like to thank the residents of Lake James because I believe the people who take their lake seriously should be given a lot of credit. I hope they know we've tried to give them a lot of credit. And as Mr. Wiener pointed out, we have to go through site plan review to go all of those issues. We can't hear you. It's so difficult to hear in this room. I'm so sorry. I hope this will be better. My point being that the reason we wanted to tie on to the city's project is because the city's project is larger. What you may not know is that Lake James is also the recipient of water from Kempsville Road, from Indian River Road. All the shopping centers around that entire area all go into that lake. Our water goes into Indian River Road before it goes into that lake. So the question is, what's the best path? And that's what we've honestly tried to find. In fact, what the Lake James residents suggested to me at our meeting was that we look into the city's program and see if we could participate in some way with that. In fact, I didn't know about the program until they referenced it, and we asked our experts to look at it. So we think that's the best approach. It will treat our water. It will treat water beyond just our limits before it goes into that lake. So I want you to know that we're on record as wanting to improve the water quality, not just reduce it, which is significant. I'll just tell you, I don't want to sweep that under the rug. That's a big thing. 2 acres of less impervious area is a big thing. But the other is the quality side, and we understand that. And that's why we think the participation with us in the city's program, which is going to spend about $600,000, according to the speaker, to help improve the water quality in that lake, we think that's the best bang for our buck in putting in. That's why we're going to participate. And by the way, we don't have to participate in that at all. We don't have to do that at all. We can just go through the site plan process. So my clients are serious about wanting to help the people in Lake James. They're not going to be bearing 100% of the cost for everybody else along that roadway, and they shouldn't be. But we are willing to participate in that. We've made that clear to them. We make it part of the record today. Now, a couple of things I'd like to say, and you can call Mr. Lohman for this, and that's the traffic issue, because I think even Mr. Lohman was sitting there agreeing with the traffic study that we've done in terms of the reduction in traffic, which is significant. Finally, I'd like to really apologize to, I believe it was Ms. Hankins, I hope I got her name right, who's the tenant. I have no explanation of why the property managers didn't know about this application. It's hard for me to fathom. So that shouldn't have happened. I'm sorry. And anything that they or the other tenants want to know, please contact me. I'm happy to tell them, or the owners. And I'm sure the owners who are watching this this presentation are going to be contacting the property managers probably within the next hour about presenting this to the tenants that have not already been presented to, apparently, because they're all valuable. And Mr. Wiener, you're exactly right. If she's by the Outback, all those areas are staying, as you see in this exhibit. So again, this is the best move forward. We believe that the applicants have presented a great case to you, and one that the neighborhoods honestly acknowledge. They acknowledge that something has to be done. They acknowledge it's getting better. We're just trying to find the best path because we know we're reducing traffic. We know we're not impacting the schools, and we know we're trying to do better on the stormwater. So I think we can get there between the staff, stormwater review, and the city's program. That's a great place to make a significant difference. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Wall, you or others might have on the commission. Yes, Mr. Rudman. Oh, I'm sorry.
That lady who is the tenant who you just referred to had stepped out of the room while you spoke. You might connect a little bit later.
Thank you. see if I can find her. We've got her address.
Yeah,
so.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Nutter, I've got a couple
Yes.
questions.
Yes,
for you.
Mr. Wall.
So, the stormwater program, the $600,000 program, and maybe it's been explained, and maybe I just didn't. Are you familiar with like the city's program? Is it specifically for Kemps River? I mean,
It's
Kemps,
surprisingly
Kemps River
specifically.
Shopping
It's
Center,
specific. That one is specifically for Kemps River and the area right around it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And do you know what it's going to entail? Like what the?
I don't know the specifics. I know that the city is will be treating that water because they wanted to make sure that the runoff from those areas goes down, and they want to make sure that the water quality requirements are met. That's all I really know. But other than we've said we would participate with them, and which we don't have to do. We just feel like if you're going to spend money for stormwater, why not do it with a larger program that'll affect the lake, the end product of the lake, not just off our property into Indian River Road. That's our thinking. Yes, sir.
Can I interrupt?
Yes,
Mr.
If you
Frankfield.
would, everybody check your email. WAS sent out a nice, the CIP sheet for this particular project, and it clearly identifies a significant new treatment facility on Fordham Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Fordham Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a drop inlet treatment facility. So it's in the location. It should be easy to work
Right.
together on. Through the site plan process, I'm guessing that you are saying you will support this project and work to a reasonable level on finding out how you can treat stormwater better.
Right.
You just have not gotten to that point yet. And it will be an extensive, detailed process.
That's exactly right. And all the experts they're talking about are fortunately here at the city. So, thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Anyone else? I've got one.
Oh, yeah,
thing. And so one of the
Mr. Wall.
speakers,
That's
one of the
all right.
speakers mentioned one thing, and they had to ask about the nutrient credits. Would you be willing to proffer that nutrient credits wouldn't be used as a stormwater strategy in the
Sure.
when the site development plan is submitted to the city?
I don't know that I can yet because I don't know enough about the city's program. To be honest with you, I can tell you this. We want to make a difference. And if we can just do the nutrient credits and do nothing, we don't have to bother with the city's program. What we're telling you today is we will participate with the city's program. And that's a treatment program that's going to be an area larger than just us. And that's why we think it's more significant than just us putting in a few filteras on the property. And then the water goes directly in Indian River Road. And that just seems to defeat the purpose, if you mind.
Okay, well, the nutrient credit, it's a state, that's part of the state program, and it does get reviewed by the city as the review authority. But I mean, I think it would go a long way to, support the residents if that was, proffered.
Right.
Because that's like somebody could buy nutrient credits for property in another watershed. And
well, it actually has to be in this watershed.
It's in the same watershed. Right.
It's in the same watershed,
but not necessarily.
Right. It's a significant benefit. And part of the reason why DEQ likes nuclear credit programs, by the way, I'll just so you know, is because too often people just put in an on-site stormwater system and it's not well maintained, or they put in filtera systems and they're not well maintained. Whereas if you have a credit program, it goes into a DEQ program where DEQ monitors and it really does affect the stormwater. So it's just on more of a regional basis or in the same watershed. But there are reasons why credits are important. We're not saying we're not going to use credits. We're not going to say we are using credits. What we are going to say is we're going to participate in the city's program, was to design to treat the water from the area directly coming off us and Fordham Road before it goes into Kemps River. That's what we're saying. We think it's better than that, to be very honest with you. Because we can ride on the tails of a $600,000 project versus putting stuff on our own. I mean, it's just that's a great opportunity, and we didn't know about it until they told us about it. So, yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody
Thank you.
else?
I have a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Not specifically to Mr. Nutter, other than I have a utmost respect for what the city is in its stormwater program. I mean, we have wrestled with this for many, many years. Our program in the city of Virginia Beach far exceeds the state program, and I just don't think you can get much better. I mean, the developers are harping on us about how stringent a program it is, and they, you know, it's just, but that's the way we are in the city. We are very stringent on the stormwater regulations. But I thank you, Mr. Nutter, but I want to hear from Mr. Lohman, because I want him to address this traffic issue that so many people seem to think, and they got the big applause when the man said something about traffic. I want Mr. Lohman to explain this traffic situation.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Horsley.
Hold on, Mr. Nutter, if you can, okay, we'll get to traffic here in a second afterwards, but I think, Ms. Wilson, do you have something to say?
I just have a comment that I think I need to insert here. Proffers are offered voluntarily, and we can't really ask Mr. Nutter for a proffer, okay? Don't use the word. Ask him if he'd be willing to say that they would not do that, but we cannot require proffers. Proffers have to be voluntarily done. And our stormwater system is going to require what our regulations require. They're not really going to require any more than that, but our regulations are the stiffest in Virginia.
Right.
And so we believe that we have got them stiff enough to reduce pollutants and reduce quantity.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Okay now?
I think so, yeah.
Just checking.
I think that should do it. Okay.
Am I allowed to ask a question?
I'm sorry, no, yeah. Okay, so we're closing it to, yeah. So before we open it up to discussion among the planning commissioners, Mr. Lohman, if you wouldn't mind coming up for a second.
All right, good afternoon. Rick Lohman, Public Works, City Traffic Engineer. I guess I'll just address the traffic memo since that's probably, you know, what's causing some of this. The traffic memo, we asked the developer to put this together. We had already done an analysis like this ourselves, and we'd proved to ourselves that the commercial square foot.
Excuse me, could you just, for the benefit of the folks here, could you tell them your role here, what your job is, Rick?
Oh, I'm the city traffic engineer.
Okay, thank you.
So, ooh, do I get 3 minutes? Can you, oh, crap. Wish I only had 3 minutes. So the memorandum, basically what it says is when it's fully built out with the commercial space that's already out there, you know, this is how much traffic it could generate. And here's how much traffic it can generate with the uses that are proposed, which is keeping some of the commercial, but demolishing some of the commercial and replacing it with multifamily residential. You guys are very familiar with me discussing that commercial is the highest land use, besides the Chick-fil-A, commercial is the highest land use that there is out there because you've got people coming and going, and it affects your PM peak hours specifically because you got a lot of people coming and going to those shops during the PM peak. Residential, not so much. Residential is lower, especially multifamily residential, because you do have smaller family sizes. You do have smaller household sizes. So this 322 apartments is not the same as 322 single family houses. It's much less, like to the 70% less than if it was a single family house. But the analysis that we had them do was based on a full shopping center. And if you guys remember, it's only been 5 years since that shopping center was active with the Farm Fresh, which went out of business. The company went out of business, not the store. And the Kmart, which I guess went out in 2017, 2018. And the company went out of business, not the store. So it's still it's still a shopping center that could be redeveloped, and it could be cut up into smaller pieces, the big boxes, and redevelop as a full shopping center again. So that's why we did what we did. I will tell you that when it's redeveloped with the 322 houses, it probably will have more traffic than there is now. But I could point back to the point that we redesigned that intersection, and whether these people like it or not, that intersection is much more efficient and better than it was when we started with that intersection. Kempsville and Indian River was the worst intersection in the city. It was the most congested intersection in the city. And again, whether you like it or not, that intersection flows very, very well now. So, and if you have questions about that, I mean, I could certainly I could talk for 20 minutes about that, about why it's better. But I will say that, again, by itself, the 322 apartments, and forget about the retail that is being demolished, by itself, the 322 apartments wouldn't require the developer even to do a traffic study because it only generates like 140 trips in the peak hour, just because of the nature of multifamily housing. So we wouldn't even require a traffic study even if they weren't replacing that much retail, even if it's vacant. So I can answer one question that Mr. Eder he asked. In Centerville Phase 2 and Centerville Phase 3, I mean, the city's always been moving forward on those projects. They did get slowed down because of some drainage and some other issues, but Centerville Phase 2 is fully funded, and it is scheduled to begin construction in 2025 per the current CIP. I can't say that it's going to definitely start, but the city is moving that project forward. It is 100% fully funded. And I think private utility relocations are going to be starting very soon.
Where's that from and to?
Excuse me? That's from Indian River Road all the way to Kempsville Road.
That's Phase 2?
That's Phase 2. Phase 3 is going to be taking it from Kempsville to just past Lynn Haven. But the big addition for Indian River Road is with Centerville Phase 2 is it's going to take some people off of Kempsville to Indian River to get to the interstate, because we're going to make that road, we're going to make Centerville whole. And so people won't have to bypass Centerville like they do now. And number two, we're adding triple lefts from Centerville onto Indian River, which is going to free some time up to give more to Indian River, which will free that whole corridor up as well. So it does help Indian River, but the city's totally moving forward towards that. Any other questions?
Yep. Okay. All right. Thanks. I appreciate it very much.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, then I'm going to close the public discussion and open it up to the planning commissioners to discuss among yourselves. Mr.
I'll
Wiener.
start off. Mr. Chairman, before we start off, though, I want to recognize somebody that's in our audience here today, Mr. Dan Edwards. Mr. Edwards has been on the school board, was on the school board for well over 20 years and was a past chair of the school board. And we just want to thank you for your service that you did. Thank you very much, sir. So I've heard a lot today and want to go a little deep here. I'm from this area. My wife and I bought a house in 1990 over by Stumpy Lake. And then in 2001, we bought a house in Caroline Farms. So this is my backyard. I've been here for 30-some years also. I made a point in the last couple of weeks because I knew this was going to come out. This was coming, so I knew in the last few weeks on at 5 o'clock, I made a point to go through this intersection. I may be one of the only ones that's going to say this, but I love this intersection. I think it's great, and I know y'all live closer to it than I do, but I made a point to going through it. And I did say in the informal, when Kmart was wide open and Farm Fresh was wide open, and all the shops were there. It was hectic going through there, and evening times it's hectic going through there anytime. But lately it's nice, and I don't think traffic's a big issue, in my opinion, for this development. I do the stormwater. I do have to say our stormwater regulations are top notch, and a lot of this is going to be taken care of on the site plan review. And I think you're going to find out that what they do, if this goes through council, there shouldn't be a problem with this whatsoever. It's not going to affect the schools. There's plenty of parking. I just don't see, nothing's really sticking out to me to say no to this. I just don't see it. So I'm going to support it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Frankfield.
So what I'm reading is that it's amazing. If you look at this plan for the Kempsville River crossing water quality improvement, it looks like it was made just for this project. I mean, it's on Fordham Drive, it's a drop-in. I don't know how hard it would be to put another one in, but it's certainly really, and the ability for the developers to work with the city on this, I think, plus is very positive. Plus the when they go through site plan, these issues are going to come up and they are going to address them. They are going to deal with a little bit of water quality, a little bit of quantity, and as somebody said, maybe it was David Weiner, redevelopment is a good thing. Redevelopment is a good thing for stormwater. I know it's tough, it's a change, but this will definitely address a lot of the stormwater issues and be very positive. I also think the traffic is not an issue. And I think the thriving development that is going to be in there with the residential and the retail is going to be phenomenal. Very positive, great place to live, good combination of shopping and housing. So I also support this project.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I've got one question. In light of how much water we now allow to be removed from the property, I know we've been having developers say that we're very hard on stormwater. How much water do we allow people to move off of the property without being treated or retained on the property?
I'm going to try to answer this in a way that the public can understand. They cannot increase the flow and quantity of the water coming off the property than it does right now. So before pre-development, they cannot increase how much water comes off, nor can they increase how fast it comes off the property, if that makes sense. With that, they are all completely impervious at this point in time. So the state regulations, as well as our stormwater regulations, have a specific cutout for those that do provide a 10% reduction in impervious surface, because there is a definite quantifiable benefit of providing additional green space on the site. As we know, although it's chopped up, it is in a 2-acre increment of the site, which is already 20 acres. So they may meet it in that fashion, but that will go through a full review process in our department.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, I've got a couple things. And I mean, I know I've been on Indian River in years past, and maybe it's been a while, and maybe there have been improvements, but I know it's been disheartening, at traffic, peak traffic hours, trying to get through there. So, I'm certainly, not immune to, traffic problems that have, in the area of Kempsville and Indian River Road. But I think it's been fairly well addressed, and I think that residential will, in general, reduce the traffic compared to a built-out shopping center. So I think there are improvements, in those regards. In terms of stormwater, I'm not insensitive to stormwater either. I used to have a swim route, in a triangle, on Lake James. So, familiar with the water quality, when it can be bad. And, it's a nice amenity for the homeowners in the area. So certainly, it's, it can be seen why, and, the homeowners are, fighting to maintain and improve that water quality in Lake James. But I think that, the city's initiative, and I think that the developers, initiatives, and I think just the general reduction in impervious will, no matter what, should make improvements, over existing conditions. So, with those two major, items, I think generally being addressed, I feel I'm going to support the application as well. Mr. Redmond.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of agenda item number 2.
Okay.
A second.
All right, so we've got a Motion for approval by Mr. Redmond and a second by Mr. Weiner.
Hit the button.
Vote is open. By a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against. Oh, sorry. By a vote of 9 in favor, 1 against, agenda item number 2 has been recommended for approval.
All right, thank you.
Our next agenda item is agenda item number 4, Birdneck Ocean Annex LLC, an application for a conditional use permit mini warehouse at 1069 Laskin Road in Council District 6, formerly the Beach District. Would the representative or the applicant please come to the podium?
Mr. Chairman, I'll give a second if you don't mind. Let Buddy exit. I think we're about there. Ladies and gentlemen, for the record, my name is R.J. Nutter. I'm an attorney representing the applicant in this case. And this is an applicant, by the way, who's has a proven track record in this exact same neighborhood. And I don't want us to overlook that fact because it's one thing to be brand new. It's another to have a track record like they have, and not just here, but at this location just down the street, but elsewhere around the city. They've proven themselves over and over again to be good neighbors. But this property is, as you know, zoned unconditional B2. It has been the stepchild for every almost failed activity you can find on this property. Restaurants have come and go on it for years. Most recently, it was used as a construction laydown area by the Breeden Company. And so it's been a bit of a toss-up of what would happen to this property. It's in a crash zone. And as you know, it's about a block and a half from where the jet went down on Easter, what we call the Miracle in Easter, a few years ago. So it's an area where residential is not permitted, excuse me. And that the uses that could go here could have a far greater impact than this one. That's not just the reason to support it, however, is something worse could go there, but it is an important factor. And also the fact that, quite frankly, everything that's tried to go there has failed. So along comes a use that generates almost no traffic, that is amongst the quietest use you can have with the possible exception of a cemetery. And I used to talk about that with Mr. Jones was on council. I used to say he's the only use that may be quieter than self-storage. And the other nice benefit of this project, it eliminates the possibility of parking in the rear. It eliminates any traffic coming to the rear of this property. All the traffic is in the first, 75, 100 feet of the property. None of it goes behind the building. There's no parking around the building, all of which is significant benefits. And so I think the only issue you have been presented to you is your concerns I saw earlier about the height. And let me just tell you about the height. The height situation is one that, quite frankly, has to do with it's set up in the code. And the reason why we have a height limitation around residential is because they wanted to set the height of any adjacent property as the same height that residential could be. It was not supposed to be some prohibition against adjacent property owners. It was set to be the same height limit that they enjoy. And as you may know, these properties next door are 2- and 3-story units. The one we did on Independence recently that you all approved and went to council and was approved was backed up to 1-story single-family homes. It was not in a crash zone. And we worked out a deal with the residents there to put in additional landscaping. We had a setback. In fact, the setbacks on this are greater than the setbacks of the residential units that are adjacent to us. And then we also agreed in 2 meetings with them that we would recess the 3rd floor of this building, even though it was under the 35-foot height limit. We would recess that portion by 15 feet, making it further back. They already understand there's no windows here. There's no one to be looking in their backyard, which is often the case for, had it been developed in office, you'd had people in there looking down on their backyards, which we hear about on every time we have an office next to residential. None of that is the case here. So we have some letters in support, but I'd also like to share with you a letter in support that's not in your package. And it was written to us by Mrs. Broyles, Tom Broyles' wife, who lives in the condos that, Jack, you visited earlier just down the street behind the beach pub. And they talked about what a great neighbor it has been. They talked about how it cuts off the noise from Laskin Road to their property. In fact, the meetings we had with the residents, they held, I didn't go, my clients went, was held at that location so they could see it, look at the setbacks, look at the landscaping, all of those features, understand right what they'd be looking at. So I don't believe we have any speakers signed up in opposition, but I did want to address these points for you because they've gone out of their way to be a good neighbor. We comply with every planning thing you've got in the city at this site, we comply with. We went to the PDRC. In fact, that was a benefit, I must tell you, because could you show the front of the building? I'm not sure who has control of there we go. One of the things that they suggested was that we had awnings on the side of the building, and they asked us to extend the awnings into the front of the building adjacent to Alaska, which we thought was a great idea. So I would tell you there was an honest benefit in that process. It's just one more meeting to attend with a whole lot of architects, engineers, and business owners from that area. One of which, by the way, unfortunately, was Dee Oliver was on that commission. She couldn't be here today, but she was on that commission as well. So at any rate, it comes to you with staff recommendation. You've got a proven good neighbor. We've got a bigger setback than the residential next to us, and we've modified our plan to adjust their specific concerns. So I will give this to I guess Bobby, Pam. These are letters from the condominium next that Mr. Wall talked about. So thank you very much. All right, but otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have in any regard. So.
Okay.
I know we got pulled from.
Okay, yeah. So I've got some questions. I know you touched on it, but the main, I certainly, generally support the use.
Yes, sir.
That's not, what, why it's being, heard. But it's, so can you describe a little bit more? I know you mentioned it, but can you restate, about your engagement with those that are, directly adjacent? I know that there are some benefits, maybe some noise, shielding, but please, elaborate on some of the engagement with the with Kukina, I think it's.
Sure, Kukina,
yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they would actually have 2 meetings. First meeting was held maybe 3 weeks ago. I don't know, about 3 weeks ago. Forgive me. Again, I wasn't present, Mr. Wall. But what they did is we sent notices to all the people in the back, and we also sent one to the manager of the association that was managing it. There's a young lady who lives there who also serves in that capacity. And we set up a meeting giving advance notice and asked them to meet us at the other location just down the street behind the beach pub. And about 5 or 6, I think, people came to that first meeting and asked a lot of questions about the height, the setbacks, the landscaping, traffic, the air conditioning units, location of the AC units on the building. All of those questions were asked. And they told them, look, we think you're okay here. We've done this before. We're good neighbors. They took them out to the side to show them where the landscaping was to see how close it was to the other condominiums. And they exited that meeting. Then they got a second call about some people couldn't come to the first meeting who wanted to come and have a second meeting, so they held a second meeting. And that's when the concern raised about by some people right along the back about that weren't at the first meeting, asked if we could do something about the proximity to their homes. And so that's where we agreed to recess the third floor level of the building back the 15 feet. It's the same process we'd followed on the property on Independence Boulevard. And so that seemed to appease those residents. And we thought it had appeased the residents there. I'm sorry we had letters of opposition afterwards, but in fact, one of the people who wrote a letter in opposition asked for the recessing, and then in addition, had asked if she could work on the landscaping with us. So we set up a call with her and Billy Almond, who you all know very well, on the landscaping so that she could participate in the landscaping, selection of landscaping material. So that's the outreach we've had, if you will, Mr. Chairman. Now, we also reached out to the people behind us. There's an apartment complex in the rear of the site. And they have wrote an email, or I think it was email in support. As long as we kept, there was a fence in the back, they want us to keep the fence, and we told them we would keep the fence. So we talked to them as well. So that's the outreach we've held on the property, as you can see. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks. What about the single-family home on the other side? And single-family home on the other side?
Right. I did not reach out to them. I did the 7-Eleven that's just down the street, and we reached out to all those people. Nobody came to anything, so I didn't. And also say that building, there's 2 homes on that site. One's kind of a flag lot. If you look at it, what you really see is the one up in the front, and there's one more in the back, closer to us, but it's just tons of trees between us and them. So we got the impression they just didn't have any concerns. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But we did try, as you can see, to reach out to everybody and try to pose an answer for everyone that we could. So.
Okay. One of the letters stated about the sign, and I drove by there on Sunday, and I noticed that the sign was down. And
Yeah,
one
you
of the
said
letters
that.
said the sign had been down for a while. The notification, orange notification sign.
We try to watch them, and with weather being what it is these days to get blown down, we always take pictures when we put them up to make sure staff knows they're installed. I didn't know it was down until your comments this morning, to be honest with you. That's Mr. Minton, by the way, Tom Minton, for the record. So, but anyway, anything I can answer, Mr. Wall.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? And I don't think we've got any speakers. Okay. And you know them. Okay.
My
all right.
pleasure,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Wall. Thank you, sir. Just in case, some of you, I know you got reappointed through February, and to the extent that I may not be back, by the way, but to the extent I am back, I've got one case I have to come back in a few months, but I want to wish you all the best and to thank you for your service. I hope you're all reappointed. You've been terrific members. It's not easy to sit here and listen to this over and over and over again, so I appreciate your endurance. And but anyway, thank you for your service.
Okay.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir.
Okay, well, I'm going to close it to the public and open it, among the planning commissioners. Yes, Mr. Bradley.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I share some of your concerns. I've struggled with these buildings just because of the size on the property and the height to the adjacent homeowners. In this case, I'm going to support it because I think there's some things that are tipping it. It's a close call for me, like they all are. One, as Mr. Nutter mentioned, it is in the accident potential zone. So it limits some of the opportunities that you could from a development. It's gone through the RAC design committee, and I think that's important for the corridor of which this enters. They are, this has been a living process, I think, for this development company. They reduced the height on that one on North Independence. They're doing that here, the increased landscaping and so forth. So I think those are enough to tip it for me to support it. So I just wanted to get that on record because I did talk about it this morning.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
This is my district. In the informal, I just had asked because it was brought up about the existing structure or the concern with the new structure, the way it is right now. And the reason I asked that, because I remember that building in the day with the bar scene, and I just wanted to see. So there was a building there. There's a new one going in there. Looks like about the same setback. There's some screening going in there. There's stormwater because there's some concerns about drainage. I'm sure that stormwater is going to be a major constraint for them to make this project work. And then that the use is acceptable for the purpose of that. So having said that, if there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of things. All right. So, I'm kind of the one who wanted to hear this. And, I think that, the letters that we received were, they weren't necessarily convincing, but they were certainly, moving in terms of, they're going to see a wall for, in perpetuity, that it's going to be, 35 feet, 25 feet off their back door. So it's, 25 feet, it's not very far. It's shorter than any other storage unit that we put next to, or we've, heard next to residential. So it's a tight fit, but there are a couple things that, for the use, I'm completely in support of. I think the use is, appropriate. I think the aesthetics of the front is, more than adequate. And in this area, there's kind of a mix of commercial, retail and single-family residential and multifamily residential. So it's, the use isn't a problem. 25 feet, I feel is really tight. The front of the building's 2 feet, the back of the buildings, you have three stories. I guess the buildings have 3 stories, but the windows on the back are 3 stories. So the applicant's gone to an extent to try to match that height so that it's not above their homes adjacent to the property line. So, I have been torn about this. I don't think that other storage units have, some have supported, some, I've opposed, but, in this case, my preference would be a deferral to work with the homeowners, to see what else could be done to improve, the offset, improve the lighting, the sunlight, for their backyards. So I know somebody's probably ready to make a motion for approval, but I'd kind of like to make a motion for deferral to make an improvement for this. So if I don't have a second, then, we'll move on, but.
I made a motion for approval.
Oh, you did make a motion for approval. Okay, then we'll stick with that,
Second.
and I won't make a second counter.
Unless you want to make
Nope.
it amended. Okay.
Nope, I do not.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that was a motion by Mr. Alcaraz and a second by Mr. Weiner.
Correct.
Vote is open. By a vote of 9 in favor, 1 against, agenda item number 4 has been recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you.
Our final agenda item is number 14, Venkata Pradeep Pachori, an application for a conditional use permit, short-term rental at 619 22nd Street in Council District 6, formerly the Beach District. Would the applicant or the representative please step to the podium?
Hi, my name is Grace Moores, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We are requesting that 619 22nd Street can become a 3-bedroom short-term rental. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
Are you the manager?
Yes, so I work for Coastal Accommodations, and we manage vacation rentals, mostly on 22nd Street.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
You're here because there's somebody in opposition, okay? So let them come up and talk, and then we're going to have you come back up. So you can address that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 speakers, one in person and one by WebEx. Sean Dowling, followed by Karen McCormick.
Good afternoon. Hello, my name is Sean Dowling, and I am a 22-year resident of Virginia Beach, mainly at the oceanfront. I'm actually highlighted directly behind the property in question, and I strongly oppose the award of the permit. I think I speak on behalf of my neighbors because when this was put out like a week ago, I was actually out of town, and everyone asked me to either this was concerning to me, so I felt it was my obligation and my duty to come speak on everybody's behalf. Our little neighborhood is quite tight. You know, we take care of each other. I've deployed many, many times, and they've watched out for my home, anywhere from taking out my garbage because I'm gone, to watching out neighbors, dogs, helping doing little construction crop projects. We got some elderly neighbors too, and I help them when they need. They feel comfortable enough coming to me. So I feel like it's my duty to be here. I also considered a short-term rental, you know, it's like a good idea, right? But literally I ceased to go down that road because it was absolutely, without a doubt, the consideration of my neighbors. I could not do that to them. The turn and burn and the oceanfront being the way it is and people going there to have a good time, which is understandable, but not at the cost of my neighbors because I felt, you know, we felt tight. Just walking through a scenario, a worst case scenario, I kind of do that. I tend to do that. With being home and then, you know, late at night, short-term rental, there's an issue. To be honest with you, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Virginia Beach Police Department sometimes and how they handle conflict. I've observed it personally. So I don't ever want to have to step in, but if there was an issue or a problem late at night, I would have to step in and obviously, or I don't want to have to step in because no one wants that. So I stand up here to ask, leave you with, you know, don't destroy our little, me and my neighbor's little sanctuary we have at the oceanfront. I like it. We all like it. We've been there a long time.
All right,
and,
well, your time is up.
Oh, I have a question. I do.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, but I might have to get some answers from Mr. Tahan. So this is one property with a condo, so you own half the property or half
Right.
the condo is shared with the applicant?
Right.
Has she talked to you?
No.
Okay.
Which I don't know. Maybe it would have changed, but it's kind of getting blindsided me by a week ago, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question for the planning director. Just hold tight. Is it a single-family home that's on a single lot, or 2 single-family homes, or 2 freestanding buildings that are owned by a condo association?
I believe staff discussed this with Ms. Wilson. Ms. Wilson, are you familiar with this ownership scheme. I believe that there's a land condo that deals with this, that the person only owns the land under them.
I think what happened was we could never find the agreement for the condominium, so there was no areas that were designated as owned by the condo. If there were things owned by the condo and the condo association, then we would have had to get their signature on this application. But it appears your condo just took a line in the middle and gave each side to each other. At least that's what I've been told. So that's where we were. So that's why we didn't require that you agree, because your condo was done kind of differently than most of them we see.
It's tight, it's like, maybe 20 feet. And, anytime there's a neighbor, there's a neighbor in the backyard, it's almost intimate, you hear everything. And I think, yeah.
Yeah, there is an argument that we should have gotten your permission for this to go forward. But that's the reason we didn't require it, was because we had this no condo property.
Okay, well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I wouldn't mind asking if, of course, the commissioners, I'm going to ask you, and then, of course, we'll listen to the other speaker, and I'm going to ask the applicant if we could defer so you guys could talk and come back later, a month or two, and work this out.
Okay.
So do you have a problem if I ask her that?
No.
Okay, thank you, that's all I had.
All right. That's it, right?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, our final speaker is via WebEx. Karen McCormick, we're going to unmute your audio feed if you would state your name and then begin your comments, please.
Good afternoon. My name's Karen McCormick, and my husband and I own the property at 620 22.5 Street, located diagonally behind the property up for short-term rental. We do not feel that having a short-term rental property in that close of proximity to our permanent residence should be approved for the following reasons. First, due to the dwellings being zoned as condos, as you just discussed, there are existing condo docs which should be on file with the city, which state that the other condo owner has to approve any and all changes of the use. And as you've just heard from Mr. Dowling, he does not approve of the use. In addition, in the existing condo docs, on page 12, number 9.2.1, no unit may be rented for less than 30 days. On page 12, number 9.3.1, each unit is hereby restricted to residential use as a single-family residence by the owner or owners. And on page 13, number 9.3.4, no nuisance or any use or practice that is the source of unreasonable annoyance to other unit owners or which interferes with the peaceful possession and proper use of the condominium property by the unit owners is permitted. So being that we are all, like Sean said, less than 20 feet, I dare say less than 10 feet between each other, which is why we're zoned as condos, any disruptions of the noise ordinance would affect each and every neighbor to the right, left, and behind to a greater degree than a house zoned as a simple single-family residence. There have already been instances when a party was taking place at the subject property, which I understand is being rented out. So in the parties in the neighbor's yard, disrupts the neighbor's peace and ability to sleep. It's happened on multiple occasions. In addition, allowing the subject property to become a short-term rental would negatively affect the parking situation on 22nd Street in front of all the adjoining properties. Currently, the property has a driveway allowing 2 cars to be parked in it. Frequently, there are 2 cars parked in it and a third parked parallel to the street, blocking the sidewalk, which I believe one of my neighbors has included in her rebuttal, a picture of that. Although it is a 3-bedroom property, the probability of more than 3 cars consistently needing a place to park if it were to become a short-term rental is high. From our personal experience with short-term rentals, parking rules are often violated by the short-term rental users, and there are often more than 1 car per bedroom trying to park. This negatively affects the ability of the adjoining neighbors to utilize the off-street parking in front of their own private residences for which they pay taxes. We're acutely aware of issues that have plagued the short-term rental properties in the Old Beach neighborhood. There are currently 3 properties approved as short-term rentals in our 1 neighborhood block. We've had to call the short-term rental number several times this past summer to report parking violations because they were encroaching into the street, preventing the ability to use the road. We're also aware of other short-term rental incidents within Old Beach, not the least of which being the use of firearms on or near the properties, resulting in bullets landing in adjoining neighbors' property. And this is a completely unacceptable risk to force the existing private residents to take. We bought this house as our primary residence in 2016. We enjoy the fact that the neighborhood is in fact a neighborhood, not a commercial zone. The short-term rental overlay was instituted.
All right. Apologize for that, but that's, your time had expired. Are there any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, would the applicant please like to come up and rebut? Oh, do you have anything to add to that?
So we are a very reputable property management company in Virginia Beach. We have 15 doors on 22nd Street that we manage. We're happy to give the neighbors who are concerned, those neighbors that are, people around, we have relationships with those people, and we're happy to give them their names and numbers, and they can reach out to get, a reference of us. We always try to squash any kind of problems that ever arise or anything like that, but it's very rare that we have to do that, and we really do try to be on it when it does happen. Any person who's currently there, we're going to start managing April 1st. So if there's concern right now of any current renter, that's not somebody who we're currently managing.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh, yeah, please do.
How many properties do y'all manage in Virginia Beach?
So I want to say it's 26.
26.
And we've got the bulk of them are on 22nd Street, but we have some on 16th and then all the way up to 69th Street.
My question is going to go in another direction. Looking at the city attorney, I hope I can ask this. Over the summer, have you had any major problems with the police or anything like that?
No, sir.
Not at all? Okay,
No.
that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Of course, I want you to know I'm a supporter in the OR district for short-term rentals. From the get-go, I always have been. When it gets spread out, I kind of get a little reserved on that. But where you're at right now and what was asked, I don't know why there wasn't communication with your neighbor, especially with a condo doc. But one of the other speakers spoke of some legal documents it might state. So I'm asking if a deferral would be okay with you so you can work it out?
Sure. Yeah.
For 30 days or whatever the commissioners would feel comfortable with? Indefinite? That way you can work it out, and you can also look at the documents to make sure whatever you're allowed to do. But I feel more comfortable supporting in the OR district, but I really need an owner on a condo to be aware.
Sure.
And he told me he wasn't. So having said that, I'd like to defer it indefinitely, unless you want to have something to say, Mr. Redmond.
Ms. Redmond, go ahead.
A couple things. First off, how in the world does somebody know where a bullet came from? Did you just hear that? A bullet fell nearby and it was the result of a short-term rental? Is that what I heard? That's, of course, absurd. I think you would be well served, and I appreciate your openness to the deferral to discuss that. We don't control condo docs. Condo docs aren't part of the public process. So let's forget about the condo part, other than they are houses very, very close together. And so that seems to me is a good reason for you all to talk a little bit if you have not. Like Mr. Alcaraz, Oceanfront Resort District is the Oceanfront Resort District. That's where these things go. And it's partly because they go here that they don't go in a whole lot of other places. So I think we need to understand that context as we go into this. But it does make some sense, I think, for you all to kind of get together a little bit and talk about things you've already agreed. And so I thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Bullets.
I was going to ask, it looks like there's two in that same building already, or right down, like some, like four or five lots down. There's one on front and back already. Is that the same condo?
What I was asking is the certain parcel is one condo with two owners.
Okay.
She's an owner, he's an owner, or she's a manager for the owner and he's an owner. There was no communication. I just feel more comfortable that there's communication.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, I'm going to close to the public and open it for discussion among the planning commissioners. All right.
Since there's no comments, I'd like to defer it for indefinite.
Okay, so we have a motion for an indefinite deferral. Is there a second?
Second.
A second.
Okay. Is there a second by, motion by Mr. Alcaraz and a second by Mr. Redmond?
Vote is open. By a vote of 10 in favor, 0 against, agenda item number 14 has been deferred indefinitely.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any other business?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. Thank you for participating in today's Planning Commission hearing. Meeting is adjourned.